Why hello my curious crafters. Sorry for the poor video quality, but my computer does not like playing Minecraft and recording at the same time. Today I'm showing you my Callable storage system. So what this does is if I take an item in the storage, for example purposes, I'm using different colors of concrete, and I input it up here, that will go through. It will go through to this slice that it matches, and it will output 16 of that item. Now this amount that it outputs per one item you input is controllable. You can have it be as low as 5 or as high as 10 stacks plus 6. And to switch between even and odd numbers, you will have to tweak the redstone a little bit, but I'll show you that later. The main idea is it's a storage system, so you can input items up here. I'll show you that. So if you input items, they'll go into these item filters, and that will go down into the storage. Once the storage is full, it won't accept anymore, and I'll explain that why in a little bit. But right now, the orange over here is full. So if I were to say, let's put some orange through right now, that will go all the way past and on through the water stream. Now you can decide what to do with that if you like. You could remove this yellow circuit if you don't want this feature, but I'll explain why I have it in place later. I don't see this as a storage system you'd have as your main storage system. It's rather slow to input some items and then have them come back out. It's only hopper speed. But it will work well in an industrial area. So what I'm planning to use it for is an industrial area. Say I have a moss farm. Now that moss farm is producing bone meal that will go into this system. It'll get stored. And then I might have a bone meal powered sugarcane, bamboo, and kelp farm, or something like that. Or maybe a dye farm as well. So whenever those run low on bone meal, they can put in a request for more bone meal. That'll go into here, it'll be output, and that will be taken off to the farm. Now over here, we have one slice of the storage taken out so you can see what's going on. I'm not going to show you how to build this block by block, but there will be a link to a structure lab file, and you can copy it if you pause here and look at it. Now I'll explain to you what each of these circuits does. We have a blue item filter up here. That's the main input. So that means when items come through here, they get filtered. This is the cyan concrete slice, and they will go on down and get stored in this chest. The green here is the item filter for the calling of items. So items will come through this hopper line, they will get filtered out, and when an item is filtered out through that slice, it will switch this latch here. So in its current state, it locks this hopper so no items can come out. When an item comes through the request line, it unlocks, so it switches, so this torch will be on, that torch will be off. And it unlocks this hopper and lets items through. So once an item is requested, it lets items through. And then this red line, when an item is requested, this will pulse. And then once we have gotten enough items, we'll control that by how long we delay this circuit to here, and that will reset the latch, locking this hopper again. And then this is just, you have to put this at the end of your slice so that the pistons don't extend, because if they extend they'll break the slice next to them and whatnot. So that just has to be any immovable block. This could be obsidian, crying obsidian, it could just be 12 more blocks, so push limit is what you're working with. But so that's the idea there. And then this yellow circuit is what prevents the overflow. So when this chest gets full to, I think it's around here, the signal strength is strong enough to lock this hopper, that meaning any more items that come through will just float on by. The reason I have this is because the way I intend to use this system, it isn't meant to be fully full. It just needs to have some items in it so that other farms could put a request in and have it output. The other thing this yellow line is needed for is that if this were to back up and fill up, that would clog this green filter, meaning it would think it's always having items being requested, which would break the system. So now that I've shown you the circuits in each individual slice, I'll explain what the orange circuit on here does and what this white circuit does. So what the orange circuit is a delay circuit. As if you remember, I said we needed to delay from this red line to this other red line, and that actually can be done not per slice, but for the whole thing, since we're only going to let through one item at a time. So this orange circuit is basically a hopper clock I broke to turn it into a pulse extender, and then from that pulse extender I've slapped on a falling edge single tick pulse that then goes into a little bit of a pulse extender and delay to the latches and resets them. So that's what this delay circuit does. And then this white circuit is a circuit to only let through one item at a time. So when an item comes through here, it goes through to this hopper. This comparator detects that and locks this hopper back here. Now I want this to stay locked until we're ready for another item. So we have another latch, which will keep that locked. If the item goes all the way through and is not in any of the filters, it will go into this chest and on down here and back to the output. As it comes through this chest, it will go through this comparator to this repeater, and this does need to be 2 ticks because this is a 1 tick. It would pulse 1 tick through this comparator, and that would break the latch. But that goes on through, and it resets this latch, allowing another item to come through. And that item would again lock the hopper and say don't let any more items through until we're ready. If the item does go through the system and get detected, it does match with one of our slices, that will go through the delay circuit, all that stuff, and when we reset the latches, we'll take that pulse and send it back up to reset the latch and let the next item through. So that explains the gist of how this works. Now I'll show you how to add the delay circuit and the single item at a time circuit once you have all the slices you want built. And in this, the way I'm building the delay circuit, this cannot be wider than 15 slices. You could probably have a way to get more, however, you would have to change the shape of the decay circuit a little bit, and it's limited by how far this redstone does reach. So this redstone gets power level 15, needs to reach all the way over to this copper bulb here. So, I said the delay circuit starts with a broken hopper clock. And this is a hopper clock I designed while working on this. It's pretty nice because I wanted to use the copper bulb, so I did. So I go here. Now we need some comparators. And then actually that needs to be reset. And let's input some items to this. So, the way this works is this is the pulse extender, and this comparator here is our output. So if I grab button, you'll see that I press this, it goes through, this turns on, and that stays on even after the button is off. So that's the pulse extender. If you want to turn it into a clock, you can just place a redstone torch here, and it's a hopper clock. I don't want a hopper clock though, I want a pulse extender. And so what I'm going to do is, now it's pulse extender, I only want a pulse at when this turns off. So I'm going to build a falling edge single tick pulse. So I have a design I like for a rising edge single tick pulse. So I'm just going to invert, this torch inverts, and then these two are part of the rising edge single tick pulse. So this torch, this redstone dust, and this torch are the rising edge single tick pulse, and I've inverted the input so it becomes a falling edge. So you'll see here, I don't know why I broke that button. If I press this, when that comparator turns off, we'll get a single tick pulse here, and we will never get a single tick pulse here other than when that comparator turns off. So now, a single tick pulse would break the latches here, turn them into a clock. So I'm going to extend the signal a little bit. So now, it'll be a 2-tick pulse, and if you wanted 5 items, you just put 1. If you wanted an odd number of items, you would just put this and then redstone dust here. I want an even number of items, so I'm going to put another 4 ticks of delay. And these are redstone ticks I'm talking about. So that's the delay circuit all built. Now I'll show you the white circuit, the single item at a time circuit. Also, I should mention this. Here is the request input. Up here is the input for filling the system. And then over here is your output. So make sure you have chest there. Now for your request line input to this hopper. You cannot input to both of these, that will break it. You could go off something like this, but just make sure you're inputting to this hopper. Now, we need to read a signal out of this hopper. Also, we need a block down there. Yeah. So we read a signal out of that hopper, goes into a target block, and these 2 target blocks are just to redirect this redstone dust. Actually, this might be able to be a block, but I don't care. I like target blocks. And then, so that, as I mentioned before, item ends up in there, it'll lock the hopper behind it. But that will unlock as soon as the item gets removed from this hopper and goes on down the line. So to get it to stay locked, we build ourselves a latch, just like so. So whenever, oh, it's already locked, we need to have it by default be set like that. So now, whenever we get that pulse to reset the latches down here, we want to also reset the latch up top. So we do that by bringing a redstone signal on through. And I don't know if you necessarily need this repeater. I've installed it just to prevent backflow from signals up here pulsing down here. I think you probably do need it. So there's that. And then we need to also reset it if the item goes all the way through. So if the item goes all the way through, I'm going to just place that there for later. We take the item, it's going to come out from right here, and we need it to go to the output. Now I'm going to use a chest to bring it over to the side, and I like using barrels to cheapen my vertical hopper lines. So hopper, barrel, hopper, and that'll go through. I don't want this again. And we're going to read from this chest so that when the item comes through, we see that, oh, we didn't actually need to sort anything, but we still need to let the next item through. So I'm going to take that to here. This needs to be 2 ticks. As I mentioned, the 1 tick pulse would have broken the latch. And when you're making this redstone line across, if it's longer than 15, if you found a way to make that work, you're going to need a repeater. Otherwise, just put redstone across and make sure it doesn't attach to any of your item filters, because that would break them. So that's it. That is it all built. So if I take out some concrete, put it into here, that'll go through. This will be locked. It goes into this first slice. This first slice should be having items requested. It is. And 16 items should end up in here. Perfect. And that's it. Well, I'll let you figure out the item input. You just need to have a chest or something here so that your items get aligned. So have your items come in from a water stream this way, they'll turn that way, so they get aligned against the chest, be partially over the hoppers, and flow on really fast along the ice. And you can use buttons, as I did over here, to reset the water, to just keep pushing items along. If you wanted, you could also just have a hopper line over top of these. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was useful. Hope you learned something new or got a cool idea to do something else.